Hello, my name is David Drockton, and I am an integration support engineer at QuickBase, or in layman's terms, a pipeline specialist. If you've ever submitted an overnight case for assistance with pipelines, you and I have already worked together either directly or indirectly. So I'm very excited about today's presentation because I know it is going to save you a bunch of time as you work in pipelines. And we are going to cover replicating and archiving your workflows with YAML. So the key things that will learn today in this presentation are where the key items are in a pipeline's YAML, the important ones that we'll need for these workflows, how to use YAML export to back up your pipelines, and also how to prepare a new pipeline for YAML import. And specifically, we'll be covering 3 use cases of importing a new pipeline from an old pipeline. We'll cover exporting YAML and best practices with that, and then I will show you the key locations in the YAML. So what is YAML? And you cannot make this stuff up. It literally stands for yet another markup language, which sounds like it would be fake, but that is real. And we have our little lovely YAML camel over here that will take us on our journey. So let's dive right into some sample YAML. And I wanted to just highlight those key sections. So we have here our meta section, and you'll notice there is it's just the name of the pipeline. We have our account slug section. Now these account slugs are basically placeholders for either a user token, in the case of QuickBase, or your login and password for one of the other pipeline channels. And you'll see here we have our QuickBase slug, again, lower in the pipeline. These are the actual actions of the pipeline. And so this slug will be present anytime we have a QuickBase channel action. And this is just an example of the Gmail channel and the Google Calendar channel. One other key thing to note is that there is specific indentation in YAML. You do not want to edit this because you will break the YAML. And lastly, occasionally, depending on what type of pipeline you're exporting or importing, you may see an exposed user token in the YAML. It is best practice to delete this immediately before saving your YAML or before sending your YAML to someone else for import. I usually like to put a placeholder in there, and I will show you how to do that. So let's get into our use cases. Imagine there is a manager named Wanda. She is the department manager of payroll. And her company needs a faster way to implement pipelines and to also collaborate on new workflows. She has a team of 20 people who are from anywhere from beginning to advanced QuickBase and pipeline builders. And she is very curious to find out about how YAML import and export might solve her issues. And believe it or not, YAML export is easier than you think. I know we are a no-code, low-code platform, and this is indeed some code, but just watch how simple this is. So let's switch over to that example in this window. You'll see here, I have my first pipeline. We are going to export this YAML. This pipeline, it basically just archives records from a table in QuickBase using the JSON handler and some webhooks. And let me show you what the pipeline itself looks like in this window here. So we have these steps and then all of that. So when you want to back up the YAML of a pipeline, you'll click Import, Export, and then you'll see here our YAML. You will want to grab all of this code, copy, and then last but not least, we are going to paste this in a plain text editor. Now, let's talk about that really quickly. It is important that you use a plain text editor because other word processing programs may add other code or tags to this YAML, which will, again, break it. And I chose this pipeline specifically because you will notice we have exposed user tokens. So here's what I personally like to do before saving my YAML. Placeholder for user token. And we're just going to copy and paste that and put that anywhere in the code that we have user tokens. We have one more down here. And then all we have to do is save it. I personally like to kind of name these logically when saving them. So we'll call this data archive pipeline backup. And you can save it in a prepared folder. I personally like to save them just on my desktop. Right. Now, moving on to our first QuickBase use case. So we're going to start out with a simple QuickBase to QuickBase pipeline. And you'll notice on this slide, I've actually typed up instructions of what we're doing on the screen. We will not linger here, but feel free to pause this if you want to read these and absorb them as you're watching this video. First, I want to just show you what this pipeline looks like. So you'll notice this pipeline simply has a record created step. It searches another table for records, and then it updates the records it finds in that search. So pretty straightforward, basic pipeline. So here, the first thing we need to do is we need to prepare a new pipeline to receive this YAML. And here is what that pipeline looks like. So key things here. You want to create a user token, a new user token. So if you're sending this to another user, the user would need to make a new user token that is linked to the same applications in QuickBase for this YAML import. So you'll notice we just have one step here with that user token. All you need is one QuickBase step, since that's all we have in this pipeline. Next, you will go over and click Import Export. You will copy and paste all of this YAML code. Okay. And then, let's actually go back here. And we'll click Import Export. I personally like to label my YAML so I don't get confused. This is our new pipeline YAML, and then I like to paste the old YAML below. Okay, then the first thing we need to do is let's grab our meta tag from the new pipeline, because that's what the name we want for this pipeline. And next, we want to grab this account slug section. This is probably the most important part right here. So we want to grab these slugs and replace the old slugs in our YAML that we're importing here. One other thing to note, the color coding here is not necessarily relevant to any of this process. I know you may see a few colors here. Pay no attention to that, not necessarily important. All right, so next we need to go in and replace all of our QuickBase slugs. So this slug is from our new pipeline, and it's linked to the new user token. So you'll notice here we have a slug. We will replace it. We will replace it. And we'll replace this slug here. That looks good. We only have 2 slugs we needed to replace. And last but not least, we just need to go back up, delete all of this because we've replaced it below, delete all of this, and then click Import as New. And it may take a moment. You will notice here we are. The exact same pipeline from the other account is present with all the same steps. Okay, so moving along to our next step. This pipeline is a little bit more complicated. It has a Dropbox channel, so it's triggered by a file being uploaded in Dropbox. It has CSV handler steps, so a second channel, and it has QuickBase channels. If you've ever dealt with a CSV import, this pipeline basically automates importing a CSV into QuickBase. So the first thing we're going to do is, and actually I have prepared this YAML in advance to save us a little bit of time since we've gone over kind of where to go to grab that. So here is my, you'll notice here I already have this labeled, it's old YAML. Then we're going to go into our pipeline editor. Okay. And I already have a pipeline prepared to receive this in this account here. All right, so if you remember, the first thing we'll do is paste the YAML below. we will replace the meta section with the name from the new pipeline in the old YAML code here. Then we'll grab our account slugs from the new pipeline and replace that section in the old YAML here. At this point, you could also just delete this stuff because we've replaced everything we needed in the YAML. And now, okay, this is where it can get tricky if you have multiple channels. Let's say you have more channels than this. You may need to replace anywhere from 1 to 5 different account slugs. So we are going to replace our Dropbox slug first. This is our file uploaded step in Dropbox. And then you'll notice there are no slugs for the CSV handler. And that is because that channel doesn't really use any authentication. It just handles the CSV from a different channel. And then here we only have a single quick base action below. So we will replace that slug like so. And voila. And then just make sure we deleted the old YAML and import as new. And here is that exact workflow. And you'll notice our Dropbox trigger. If someone else is importing this pipeline, you may actually need to reconnect this step, but everything else is here as desired. Okay, so without any further ado, let's get into our most complicated pipeline. Now, don't be afraid. This pipeline is indeed complicated. It uses a combination of the RESTful API, Jinja, as well as webhook steps. But as you're about to see, this is the easiest one to import. All right, so let me go ahead and first I'll grab my prepared YAML that I have saved over here. And again, this is just a great time to touch upon. Make sure you always, always, always delete user tokens before sharing YAML. And why that is user tokens are basically a password on steroids. Even if you change your QuickBase password, the user token itself is still valid. That's to ensure that your pipelines don't stop running if you change your password. So just guard that very carefully. And let's go into our YAML editor here, where I have already prepared a pipeline that is ready to receive this in this account. Yes, excellent. So we'll click import export. And we will delete everything in here actually. Now, we just need to do a few things with our old YAML. And to save time again, what I did here, you'll notice I have my old user token. This pipeline uses a total of 3 webhook calls. So there are 3 places where the user token is referenced. I actually created a new user token and put it here below. All you will need to do is grab that user token and replace it here, replace it here, and replace it here. And then delete this at the bottom of the YAML. And by the way, I'm deleting all of these user tokens after I am done recording this presentation. So and voila, all of that. And this pipeline, by the way, took quite a bit of time to build. As you can see, like it's a fairly complicated one. And look at this. My entire workflow was duplicated. All of this Jinja, all of these RESTful API calls. So I wanted to quickly go over what we covered today and just hit a few key points again. We went over where the key items are in a pipeline's YAML. We talked about account slugs, the name of the pipeline, and then replacing account slugs and also user tokens. Also, we covered how to prepare a pipeline for YAML import. It is important that you have a single step from every channel present in the new pipeline that is referenced in the old pipeline. And so in our example today, we had a Dropbox QuickBase, and we also did a QuickBase to QuickBase. And if you're doing things with the RESTful API and webhooks or the JSON handler, you generally won't need to recreate that because those use user tokens. So we saw that that was the easiest thing. And lastly, I neglected to mention this. I just wanted to give a quick plug on which text editor to use. I personally am a Mac user. I love Sublime Text for Mac. I use it for not just this workflow. If you're a Windows user, your computer already comes with Notepad that you can use to back up your YAML. And so, thank you so much for attending my presentation today.